and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now Councilman Keller will do the invocation.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And now Councilman.
All right, let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before Thee this time with gratitude in our hearts for the many blessings that Thou hast given us, the wonderful sunshine that we're experiencing, and the ability for the snow to recede, and for us not to have too many issues with flooding in the area. We ask you to please bless those homes and those families that have been experiencing some issues from all the snowfall and the melting of it. We ask you to please help us that as we discuss things pertaining to this city, that we may be able to have Thy Spirit guide our thoughts and our actions to match Thy desires and Thy will for this area. And we say these things in the name of our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We go to an actionable item. Item 4, approval of agenda.
Mayor, may I move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Santa Claus, and who was the second, please?
I know.
I was the second. Okay. Any discussion?
Mayor, may I move to amend the agenda?
State your amendment, sir.
Amending it by approving items A and B under new business. Consenting.
Consenting to items A and B under new
Second.
business. Seconded by
Welch.
Welch. Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to contest that? Seeing none, that'll be unanimous approval of the agenda. Item, now we'll go back and say, Miss Ellie, would you call the roll on the amended agenda, please?
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Skips, Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Does anyone wish to change? I see no changes, so the agenda has been accepted. Go to item 5, approval of the minutes from May 16th, 2022, an actionable item.
Mayor, move to approve the minutes from 5/16/2022.
Second.
Okay,
Jacobson.
okay, excuse me, please. A motion is by Santa Claus to approve the minutes, seconded by Jacobson. Any discussion on those minutes?
Just the small correction that was needed that we discussed earlier. It's just a typo.
Okay, thank you. Please call the roll on that, Miss Ellie.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Skips,
Yes.
Mr. Cromer,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Claus,
Yes.
Mrs. Welch,
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Anyone wish to change? Seeing none, the minutes are accepted as recorded and approved and corrected and approved. Thank you. Item 6 are communications from the mayor. I was in the middle of putting down my bullet points when the whole system at my desktop crashed at 5:29. So I'm going to try to do it the best I can off the top of my head here, which I'll try to make it quick here. So, as you know, I was in Anchorage the week of May 23rd through 27th, and I was at Arctic X, and that was on Monday, May 23rd, and I was on a panel that received quite a bit of attention. This was with Department of Energy, and U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski. And so Department of Energy, I cannot begin to tell you how many people came up and just were amazed that we're actually working in the city of North Pole to have a combined heat and power plant, and that we're going to try to make sure we have zero carbon emissions from it by having greenhouses, $20 million worth of greenhouses. And so people come forward from the Department of Energy, and we have people pledging to come up here and help lead us through some of those things. I will tell you that our project plan was submitted to the Department of Energy by the deadline, May 31st, and we have to August 31st to do any addendums to it. And anything of significance, we can't add to what we already gave them, but we can correct or amplify, if I can use the word amplify, or clarify. Clarify would be better, anything, especially in the fiscal idea. It's approximately $114 million project, and we're seeking $91 million of that to be paid for by Department of Energy. And it seems that it has a high likelihood, but we'll see where that goes. But I may very well be making a trip to the DC area in August to try to make that happen with our congressional delegation, as well as our Department of Energy contacts. So that's the first day of that conference, was the 23rd. On the 24th, 25th, and 26th of May, I was at the Alaska Sustainability Conference. That was hosted by our governor and all the different entities involved in that. And we had both Senators Murkowski and Sullivan involved in that. And that was widely participated. Those were 8-9 hour days. We even went on the governor had a train take us from the downtown Anchorage station towards Girdwood, which should have been a 3-hour trip, was more than 4 hours because the train broke down before it got to Girdwood. So it took an extra hour for us to get back after 9 o'clock at night. But as more things come, I will forward those for the next meeting because still, even as of this day, they don't have all the little segments that you can click on and review the videos of every one of those segments that were basically 45 minutes to an hour long each. I think one of the most interesting segments was in the world of sustainability is the idea of how we're going to get protein and food and things in a way that none of us would ever think of. An example is in Denmark right now, there's a 720,000 square foot facility, which is bigger than 4 football fields, and there are no cows on it. However, through synthetic means and by fermentation, they actually make milk. So there are a lot of different things coming our way in the future, and they say those things will be here within 15 years. A lot of talk about electronic vehicles, and they had a pavilion downstairs on the first floor at the Denina Center that showed all the representative new electronic vehicles that were being introduced to the public this year. But there were so many different segments that I went to some and my wife went to others to represent us having the best chance to know what all the things are, because you can't go to all of them. But the best thing is that now we know that they recorded some of this and that we will now be able to go and look at it. You can look at it at your leisure too. And maybe my wife will explain later what she learned from that. So I'm going to bring you up to the future here, not last week in the past. I was at the Fairbanks North Star Borough Salter Room on Friday, and I think my wife attended that with me. We call that the Civ Mill meeting. So the Civ Mill was with Colonel Surrey, Nathan Surrey, the garrison commander, and Colonel Tom Wolf, the acting wing commander. And Colonel Wolf's last day, his what they call Finney flight, his last flight is tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning, flying an F-16. So we were able to go there to the Salter Room and the various entities that are around the table and understand what's going on. The military has told us this from the Army's point of view, that they will be downsizing one of the brigades. All the brigades are going to be smaller and more mobile and more Arctic qualified, but the Stryker brigade will probably go away, but there will be another brigade brought in to replace it. But they are really working towards the division headquarters to have a division, which would bring a one-star general to run that division. But the net gain in soldiers will not change because the 4 brigades will be smaller, more compact, so that net change in soldiers will not change. However, there will be more civilian support. The whole idea of USARAC headquarters has not been determined yet by the Chief of Staff of the Army, but they are working on the USARAC. U.S. Army of the Alaska flag may very well one day, sooner than later, leave J-Bear and fly over Fort Wainwright. There's a lot of concern about the housing for their changes, as well as what's going on out at Eielson Air Force Base. We had a meeting with the principals to give you an update with Latitude 63. So we were given how should I put it? I don't know exactly how to say it, but Jerry Corner from out in Brookside Park had come up with some idea about City of North Pole having part of Track E and sharing the responsibilities with Latitude 63, and at the same time us taking over the developers agreement. Well, Latitude 63 and I both thought that's not a good idea. So we had Latitude 63 downtown at the Borough with Kellen Spillman and the whole planning plotting division there on Thursday of last week. It was fantastic. He wants to take over the developers agreement. He doesn't want us to be on the hook for Track E at all. But we are looking in the future, if we could ever do anything, of also about taking Track G. But he has broken down D and E. And so we'll wait to see what his plans are. But it's very encouraging that he could possibly put more than 200 townhomes into Track D, and so many maybe as many as 40 duplexes in Track E, and then some individual single-family homes on Track D. So we'll look and see how that goes, but it's still a little premature. But he was very happy. He was very satisfied that we make a good team, the City of North Pole. He's going to hold on to the 200 townhomes as an investment. So that's a good thing. I've got encouraging news today from 3 Bears. 2 people from back east are coming to visit on the 14th of next week. They'll be here. And they are investing in what 3 Bears does, but they want to see what else they can invest in up here in Alaska. So they really feel that they need to come up the Parks Highway and all the way to Fairbanks and all the way down here to North Pole to take in what it is that they can get involved in. So I'm supposed to take care of entertaining them. Tomorrow, there's people from the Consulate General of the Netherlands, from the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The Deputy Consulate General and the Senior Economic Advisor will be here tomorrow from San Francisco, and they'll be out here again on Wednesday. So on tomorrow, I'm probably going to meet them at their hotel at the Westmark at about 5 p.m. and go with them out to Chena Hot Springs to see the greenhouses, everything that Bernie Carl wants them to see. Because Bernie's using Netherlands technology for $80 million worth of greenhouses already in a corporation that he formed with Unalaska. With Unalaska, it's called OCCP, which is Unalaska Corporation and Chena Power. So just in Netherlands technology, $80 million for greenhouses. What we're proposing here in North Pole for our combined heat power plant is 20 acres of greenhouses, which is $40 million. So we're trying to see what kind of trade agreements we can make with the Netherlands and they buy a lot of our seafood from Alaska down at Trident Seafood. So there's a lot of win-win synergy in that. So we're going to see how that goes. But then they're coming to City Hall on Wednesday afternoon. So I do believe they'll see me and Mr. Danny Wallace and whatever else they want to see in their short time on Wednesday afternoon. So that's about the size of that. And I'm tapped out, guys, and I bet you are from listening to me this long. So unless I forgot anything, I don't think I have. I'm sorry that my computer failed because I was going to give you the bullet points on that in writing. But that's the best I can do. But I will be at Colonel Wolf's Finney flight tomorrow at Alson Air Force Base. That's his final flight, and he's going to fly the F-16. So I'll leave that as communications from the mayor and move on to item 7, council members' questions of the mayor. Are there any questions?
I have one, Mayor.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Councilman Jacobson, go ahead.
Could you clarify that when you met with Latitude 63 principals, they're going to be taking over the development agreement of Tract D and E?
Yes, they want to take that over. They don't think that we should have to be on the. We had Paul Trissel in office. He was going over with them what you can and cannot do, what the requirements are in that abandoned sewer line, that runs across the north end of the property there.
Right.
And he was that's a $580,300 ask just to have some corporation out of Anchorage go in there and tell us whether we could use it or not, which I thought would be throwing good money after bad. But they say that they could pretty much tell with their own technology whether the line's any good or not. And they understand why I don't think that we should spend our money doing that, because the thing's been abandoned for 12 years. I believe it's 12 years.
So is Ada satisfied that the city does not have to buy those 40 acres as a in-kind contribution to the housing project?
What 40 acres are you talking about, sir?
The Howard acres.
Oh no, that's mutually exclusive. It has nothing to do with Brookside Park.
Oh, okay.
They're in Brookside Park, which was Jerry Corner. They already sold that Ada, not Ada. They already sold Latitude 63, Tract D, which is 45 acres, and then Latitude 63 came up and said they couldn't get Ada to give them the time of day, which I'm very surprised about that. But at any rate, Jerry Corner thought maybe if he would do something. Basically, I tell you what Corner thought he could do. He thought he could get the city of North Pole to buy Tract G, and he had a price tag of $1,080,000. I don't know where he came up with that, but that was far off the radar screen. And so I said, no, there can't be any days like that. But Jerry Corner realized that he had to give Latitude 63 right of first refusal for Tract D, which is 10.6 acres, which is on one side of Blanket. It's already been it's already been plotted and planned for subdivided for dual family, for duplexes.
But not platted for individual lots, just for the
not platted for
zone. It's been zoned, I should say.
Zoned is the word I'm looking for. So, so in going down to see that whole department at FNSB, and on this trip, that was last week, Mr. Owner of the corporation, the president of it, had all of his questions answered by Mr. Kellner. And so help me, I know who I'm trying to talk about.
Chip Anderson. Chip Anderson.
Yeah, Chip Anderson's come to the conclusion that this is the best thing for him. And he was surprised that actually they gave him the stuff to go ahead and start putting in his request to get things redone. He may actually well start on E instead of D. E's on one side of blanket, because that way he doesn't have to go in and start taking down anything in tract D, which is 45 acres. Tract E is a lot easier to get started on. He's looking at it as phased approaches. And he's using, in case anyone knows what I'm talking about, ICF, insulated concrete foam. He can still continue to build. So he's not limited like most people are to the same building season. He can go a little bit further into the building season. His hardest problem, guys, is to get concrete poured for foundations. And I think we're all going to be fighting that. But he is satisfied that we would make good partners and that we're trying to do the best we can. I'll ask Danny Wallace if, Danny, you want to throw in anything in that, what you learned from our working with them?
No, Mr. Mayor, you covered most of it. I'll tell you, it was enlightening for Latitude 63 to go to the borough and sort of sort out what the requirements are going to be. So that was a very productive meeting. And they basically told them that they certainly could, within the next couple of months, that they could start work depending on some of the actions by the borough.
Right. So that's really good news, because if we look at what Rick Watson's building and other things being built here in our community, and if we look at what they're proposing to do with Latitude 63, it not only meets, it may very well exceed what the Air Force told us they needed.
Oh, good.
So
that was my whole point, was that we were
Yes.
going to be meeting the housing requirements for the F-35 families.
Right. I believe we're going to exceed it. And
Okay.
Now with Ada, I'll tell you this much, that Renee Broker advised me today she had a 44-minute long phone call, and she's trying to get them to understand that the city of North Pole has 3 issues and are not necessarily environmental. One of them is we cannot, even if we wanted to, and Zane wrote this and I helped him write it, we cannot, even if we wanted to, obligate and constrain future councils for future decisions by saying we're just going to blankly give you 10 years of property tax abatement, even if we wanted to. Second part of it is that we're not certain that we would ever be able to annex, because there's only 2 ways of annexation according to the Boundary Commission. Each of them are required by the Boundary Commission. One goes through the citizens, the other goes through the legislature. The legislature is the fastest way, but the earliest it could be done might be somewhere by mid-March of next year. And then it could be turned down by the legislature, which gives us a right to appeal, and then they have to answer our appeal before the legislative session ends. So you have like 45 days. The other way is to go through the citizens, which is a longer route, but they could say no to that as well. So why would we commit ourselves to $250,000, $250,000 if we don't know that we might be stuck with a piece of property that we're not allowed to annex?
Okay.
So I have to discuss that with Ada so they'll understand. And the third point in the letter was, I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to have to pull it up real quick. The third point in the letter was pretty clear to them. So I'm pulling it up real quick so I don't misstate anything here. Thank you for waiting. Let me pull up Zane here. Comes up right away. And point 3 is the city council anticipates we would see the results of the current soil testing by June 20th, 2022. And I got that direct from Dr. Packey. Packey said he'll try to call me on the 8th, which is Wednesday, and tell me if the soil survey came back. But he expects that he would be able to get things to us June 20th. And he would like to do this. He would like to come and talk to us face to face on July 5th. That's a month before our earnest money agreement expires, exactly 1 month before it expires with Century 21. So we're trying to go through the thing in a proper way and not rush. Having said that, you may ask me anything more about it, and I'll be glad to answer to the best of my ability.
I'm good, thank you.
I hope that satisfies you. Anyone else for that? Seeing no more, we'll move on to item 8. We'll go to communications from department heads. Chief Heineken, can you go first, sir?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. No formal report for tonight, but I just wanted to take this occasion to remind everybody that we've been experiencing quite good weather in a lot of ways, but it's also bad weather. It's been hot, dry, and windy. So just a big reminder for everybody to be fire-wise this coming weeks. And then hopefully we get a little bit of rain here soon. So that's all I have tonight. I can take any questions.
Rain without lightning. Chief, I'll start out. So do you have good news for the EMS contract?
Yes, I do. And I'll have it on the agenda for the next meeting for approval. We did get the final. They've given us a 6% increase over last year, which comes out to $695,000 and some change. So really good news for the next contract. And took a little bit of prying to finally get things from the borough in time because the contract does expire at the end of this month. So we're
It
kind
sure
of
does. And I hope they realize that. And I'll also say that I was very satisfied to hear from Zane and Renee, both at CSG, that the borough attorney, Jill Dolan, now agrees that we don't have to go to someone else to approve your contract, that there is no conflict of interest of CSG approving your contract. Did you know that?
Yeah, that is a great change.
Okay, Chief. And I will say that if anybody has questions, now's a good time to ask the chief about it. So, Chief, thank you for a good report, and we'll stay on top of this with you about the contract there with those guys. All right?
Sounds good.
And then I'll turn to Chief Dutra. Chief Dutra, if you feel up to it, go ahead, sir.
Hello, everyone. I'm homesick today, and we'll see how tomorrow goes. But I just got back from vacation and caught a cold while I was gone. Anyway, nothing really to report tonight. Just some good news. We had one person accept the job offer, so for a police officer. So we have another one coming on board, and a real likely candidate coming up, hopefully shortly right after that. So we will be fully staffed. For once, the first time in a long time. But that's all I really have. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay, and so in reference to the shooting range, as Chief Dutra knows, as I've reported to him, the Office of the Governor is aware of that range. And unlike the legislature, I have till like Friday to send something to the governor to ask him why I want him to put it in the budget. So, Chief, whatever you get to me that I can fit on one page to the governor would be very much appreciated. But I have to have it very soon here for me to send it to the governor in time. Sure, because the legislature's already over with, and I won't even go there. I don't want to go there, Chief. So, yep. Congratulations. So, who has questions for Chief Dutra, please? So I see none. Mr. Danny Wallace, Mr. Director of City Services.
Hello, everyone. I'm not going to turn on my camera because I seem to be having internet problems, but just a few things. During the next council meeting, I'll bring up a request to fund a PFAS site assessment for the North Pole Fire Department. This has been submitted by DEC back in February and March of this year, and we've got around to looking at it, and you'll see that coming forward. I think that Miss Elliott's got those in the notes, but we'll present it next time. But just sort of a heads up that this is going on. This is for a couple of monitoring wells and then some tests around the fire department based on PFAS contamination. The public works folks are working on beaver dams that keep getting put up in culverts. Today, they showed me some of the grading that they have made in-house, which I think it'll do a good job of keeping those beavers out. We actually got a call today about flooding on 5th and 8th in a couple homes in their crawl spaces. So that is something that they're trying to get after and respond to those calls. For utilities, we do have utility assistant. We are doing interviews for the utility assistant. Actually, Miss Glab's running the HR portion of that, and I think we've got interviews on the 9th coming up for that one utilities assistant position that'll work with under Paul. We're working through the Moose Creek reporting requirements. Those had lapsed for a couple months, at least in some areas. But we're trying to get those back up to speed, and I'm working with both the Corps of Engineers and with respect on what those requirements are. And then basically right now for me, I'm just getting used to the processes that the city uses to City Hall, the mayor and the staff, the processes used, and getting used to those. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take questions now.
Yes, sir. Have you ever had a dull moment since you got here on May 25th?
No, it's been good, and again, it's a different atmosphere than what I've worked in before. So I definitely appreciate it, and yeah, things are moving fast, but that fast is good. The weather's beautiful, so everything's going good.
Well, I would like to show my appreciation if you'll share that with Public Works, because those haven't been in City Hall lately. They really did a very good job of redoing the walls. They've been freshly taken care of and all resurfaced and all freshly painted. And do we know when they're going to come from Plan Beck to put the carpet down now?
Yeah, the carpet's going to go in on Wednesday. They're going to move the stuff out. PW is going to move the stuff out, and then on Wednesday the carpet will get installed. It should be a 2 or 3 day process, but by next week you should have new carpet in the chambers.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Danny Wallace?
I do. I have one.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Wallace, are you going to be participating in the PFAS exposure assessment findings meetings tomorrow? That's being sponsored by the CDC.
I had scheduled. I contacted them, and they had said that all of the meetings are the same as far as the information being put out. So I had tentatively planned on the 8th to do that. I think there's one tomorrow night also, but I had planned on doing the 8th in the morning at 8 a.m. Actually, the in-person meeting that they were doing. Okay. So if it makes sense for me to attend the one tomorrow, I certainly can.
I was just concerned because on the Daily News Miner May 27th front page, it had a headline that said blood tests show high PFAS levels in Moose Creek residents, 7.7 times the average amount in most U.S. residents. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of concern out in Moose Creek and also now in North Pole, possibly with PFAS contamination and what is the healthy level and how to protect the health of the community members. That was
yes, I'm tracking.
Okay, thank you.
And to be a point of information on that, I received an embargoed copy many days before. Embargoed meaning I wasn't allowed to discuss it till the press release came out and it was in the newspaper. But because I had an embargoed copy of it when I was down in the sustainment conferences, I did talk to DEC Commissioner Jason Bruni. And Bruni is expecting to get a call from me to talk to his toxicologist about all of this and what the implications are for not just Moose Creek, but especially for North Pole. So, so I've had that many days in advance, and I was able to have a nice printed up copy of it so I can come to understand. So Bruni knows that I have to ask him certain questions, and he's supposed to cooperate with me on that.
Okay.
Any more questions for Danny? Thank you, Danny, and please again explain to your Public Works my gratitude and our gratitude for getting things set up for our chambers. Who's next? I think we're going to go to Tricia Fogarty next with the county.
Okay, good evening, everyone. At first thought I didn't think I had a lot to talk about, but just going through tonight's meeting, I kind of come up with some more things. But basically, we are focused on the audit at this point. The auditors, we've had auditors out on site about 3.5 days this week. Santa Claus was able to stop by, just coincidental, and meet and met Charles, who was working with us. This morning, he was there about half a day and went through some kind of what they call interviews as to who does what's your job duties, how do you perform your job, and do you suspect any fraud kind of questions, which kind of leads into the next thing is they like to talk to the council about any concerns the council has, and if they have any suspicion of fraud. It's kind of, I had a class one time that kind of talks to it as kind of like a parent-teacher conference without the child there. So if Jeff can kind of relate to that a little bit, and yeah, I know as well. So it's kind of important, even if you just say, no, I don't think there's anything going on, but it's just a nice way to have a one-on-one conversation. So they used to be on site. They used to have you come over, but in the last couple of years, it's okay to just email them or call them. So I'm going to send out another email this evening into your email address, and you can respond by email. You can call them, whatever your preference is. So just to let you know, that'll be coming your way. I know they have already got your email. They've got you checked off as you've responded. And another development that you may or may not be aware of, Terry Nelson, who has worked for the city for 21 years. She has been out on a workers' comp issue last year, and she called in and put in her retirement paperwork last month. So she had a long career with the city of North Pole. She will not be returning. She's retiring. I believe she started out as a dispatcher. I mean, Jeff would probably know more than I.
Yep.
Then she moved into the evidence custodian, and she's worked as the AP clerk for the last, years get away from me, but I would say 5 to 6 years. And so she had a long career. I wish her well in the next chapter of her life, and moving on is kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to that for myself in the next 3 or so years. And I did want to let you know, I'm sure you do know that Melissa's away. She's at the Northwest Clerks Institute training for the next week. And I myself have done that training before, and it is fabulous training. I wish her well, and I know she'll come back with, a tool chest of new things. And it's very exciting to learn your job, with other people that do the same job as you do. And so
you just took that away from me being able to tell them that. So I'm glad you told them that I didn't know you went to that training.
Yeah, I actually went to 2 of them back to back during Doug Isaacson's when he was the mayor. And I think at that time Kathy and Doug were trying to get a deputy clerk at that time. But anyway, I had filled in a lot for Kathy, and obviously filled in a lot during your time, Mayor Welch, for people that we didn't have a clerk. So that training did come in handy. And I know I wish Melissa well for it, because I think it's going to be awesome training. I can't wait to hear what she learned. So that's all I have tonight, and I will entertain any questions that you have.
Tricia, how's it going with Charles Hickson? Is that working good with Alliance Accounting?
Yeah, it is working good. They had some good things to say early on. This thing is kind of a thing you don't know till it's done. They don't really say, oh, we found all these findings in the beginning, but I don't personally believe that Gary Hutchison hands out compliments. And he called me last week and said, the books look really good this year. And so that kind of floored me a little bit. I was like, because it's an awesome compliment to come from him. And so obviously we're human, and there are probably going to be some things that come up, but we won't know till we know, but they're planning on cutting everything off next week, and they are planning on meeting the deadline of the 20th.
Okay.
And that's the last I was told recently. So
do they anticipate making a presentation to the council on the 20th?
they are intending to do that. There was some talk of, well, if they don't have the audit bound, they will go with a draft version, but
Okay.
their comment to me is nothing will really change from the draft to the bound copy. So I think
would you yeah
go ahead.
Do you think that would be best served if we did it in a workshop prior to, because I know they usually need 45 minutes to do it in.
Yeah, it could be a workshop, but I know years past, Gary did a workshop, and then he almost left, and I said, oh, you can't leave because it wasn't on record, so you have to stay again. And so it was a little bit confusing at that time, but being on Zoom, I think, or we might not be on Zoom by then, indicating what you were saying earlier.
On the 20th, we'll still be on Zoom, and we'll still be on YouTube, by the way.
Okay.
So, but the workshop could be only a quick 30-minute workshop, and it could still go on record at 7:30 or so when that becomes ongoing project or whatever.
Okay, well, I will put it on my list and discuss it with him. I know he's out till Wednesday, but I will talk to him when he gets back on Wednesday, and I will let you and Melissa know.
Okay, that sounds fine. Any more questions for Tricia? So guess who we get to come to now? She's sitting there like we're going to forget all about her, but she really went to a lot of trouble to tell us what she's been doing. So Miss Ellie, you're on.
Sorry, I'm getting used to Melissa's rolly mouse instead of one that actually moves. So for HR updates, Danny already spoke to you guys about we're doing the interviews Thursday for the utility assistant position. We got a lot of applicants for that one, so we had to take some time to go through them all. So we've got definitely some good candidates for sure. As far as training, I want to remind everybody that we set up that training so that we can try and save money on our workers' comp insurance. It saves us $8,500 in credit if we complete all the process. I still have 7 who have not done their ergonomics, but everyone else is doing wonderfully. I'm really impressed with how quickly everybody got on board and started getting it done without any prompting. So I'm really proud of everybody on that aspect. The employee insurance presentation went, from what I was told, better than the past. I guess the last time they did that, they had 1 employee show up. We had 7 this time around. And then I had multiple other people come up to me after the fact who couldn't make it to the meetings and ask me questions about the insurance coming up. So that was good. Open enrollment will be June 7th through the 17th for the insurance. And then we did have our first safety committee meeting. A representative from each department was present, and we went over kind of how those work and what's expected of us moving forward with those to help with that aspect of the credit for our workers' comp insurance and save us that $8,500 a year, which would be awesome. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have right now. Anybody got any questions for me today?
Yes, the mayor has a question here. You said the 7th through the 17th.
Yes.
Why is that only a 10-day window for open enrollment?
The reason behind that is to make sure that all of the stuff is in prior to the start date so that there's not a lapse or something not getting through by July 1st. Okay, my understanding was that if somebody opted to come in on June 30th, they could, though. They could, but there may be a delay in processing. I understand that. So point well taken in that regard, but with that in mind, are you satisfied with what Risk is doing with us? I think they've done wonderfully. They've worked a lot with me and Melissa. They've gotten us a lot of good materials to give everybody that's got complete information, so it makes it easy for employees to ask questions and find the answers that they're looking for.
Okay. And do you mind if I brag about you a little bit? So the good news is I get a really positive response from my directors that what you're doing is long overdue in the city. So I'm talking about in the HR realm and trying to put together policies and how we hire people and how we evaluate people. Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And have you ever had a dull moment since March 28th when you started?
Not as of yet.
Okay, very good. So we're rocking and rolling. Any questions for Miss Ellie? We're very fortunate to have you here. I just thought you should know that. Okay.
Thank you.
Who do we have next? The Borough Representative? Ms.
That
Welch?
would be me, but since they were doing workshops and budgeting, I did not attend. I instead was at the conference in Anchorage, and I will be happy to give a more detailed thing on that. I'm still working through my notes, but one thing I can say about our trip down there was we made a lot of good contact. We made a lot of excited people about the project that we have up here. And I would say we definitely learned something. And I will go with the governor when he says, I do like a good steak and I do not want it created by bacteria. So that was that particular thing with 15 years from now. We won't need animals for food because we're all going to do it in a petri dish. That was not my idea about it, but there was a lot of other things that we definitely learned from there, and I have lots of good contact. One particular contact that we made is with a company that helps communities when they're dealing with EPA and permitting for stuff like what we're doing with looking into the issues around having coal-fired generators going and that kind of permitting for what we're going to do to mitigate those damages, even though the project is meant to be a net zero carb thing, whatever, we still have to go through the process of proving it to the powers to be, I guess. So there's definitely a company that's very interesting coming up, and they're already working with people at Eielson and few, so they kind of know the area. Might be something that we will do. We haven't made any commitments, of course, to any of that, but it was interesting to talk to them about it. So yeah.
All right.
And I should be back. I should be back with a report for our next meeting from the borough because they do have a meeting on Thursday.
Thursday, that's correct.
Yeah.
Any questions of our borough rep? So because the finance committee was doing their budget, that's why they were not meeting. So it's not like you didn't have any meetings to go to, which is good, so that you were very valuable to be able to go down to what we did with the sequence of things that we had in Arctic X and the sustainability conference.
Yeah, what was interesting about it was that we could decide which part would be best for the mayor to go to and which part could I go and glean more information that could be a benefit to our community. And I took lots of notes and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of interesting people to meet, and also a lot of stuff to learn. And we just scratched the surface. So next year they will have another one. And I would definitely say that people from the council should consider going to something like that just to see. It's a good way to make contacts and put our little community out there.
Thank you very much. Going on to item 9, ongoing projects report. I'll start out with item A. As you know, we are working on the chambers. The chambers will be the first that'll get new carpet installed. And in talking with Planbeck, with Travis, the proprietor there today, he will also work out with us how he's going to come into the fishbowl here to do the admin area where he doesn't interfere with our daily routine, where he may take a few offices here and a few offices there and spread it out over a few weekends, whatever works best for him. You know, like he could do this office anytime, but I just made him promise one thing, that he would do Tricia Fogarty's office last, so that with any remnants that are left over, she could have a hodgepodge of pieces of carpet, so she would have the most psychedelic office in City Hall. Okay. So, but we will get that done. Item B, on this Thursday, the 9th, I believe it is. Yeah, at McKinley Bank, 6 p.m. or so. That's when the folks from North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce, the Grange, the Santa Senior Center, all those wonderful people, Lions Club and all will be meeting together to see about the 4th of July celebration for the city. And so I think what they've got planned is whether it's going to be a breakfast for the senior center and what they call a firecracker run, not a color run, but a firecracker run, which I said, what are y'all going to throw firecrackers at people, make people run away from them? They said, no, but they'll call it firecracker because it's the 4th of July, but people wear red, white, and blue. And so we expect to do that. They have some entertainment for the Grange, Mr. Earl Hughes and a band he was with them last year, and there's one called Unsupervised. And I think the third one is called Raven's Call. But I think this year they're going to have food trucks bring food there. So that was part of that project with craft fair and all that going around it. So we'll try to do our best for that. And I don't think there's anything else ongoing in projects that I know of. So now I turn to Ellie. Is there any citizens waiting in the queue for citizens' comments? I can't hear you.
Thank you. Sorry. Brian S., are you with Fernwood? You're muted, dear.
Hello, this is Jennifer Hughes.
Hello, Jennifer. Hi.
I don't know why I'm showing up as Brian S. Well, anyway, so yeah, this is Jennifer Hughes with the North Pole Grange. We are coordinating with the Chamber of Commerce, like I said, to do the firecracker run, which should be a lot of fun. And then we're hoping to have it actually end at the North Pole Grange picnic. And then we're going to have all the fun and games that we had last year, but we've got more coming. We've got, I think, 15 or 16 vendors so far. And like you said, we are trying to get food trucks to come out. We've got the bouncy houses coming out. We're going to have horseback riding. The Celebration Ranch is going to come out and bring the horses. So we've got a lot of really fun stuff going on. Trying to talk to Safeway and get watermelons for watermelon eating contest again, because that was a lot of fun. We're not going to do a barbecue competition this year just because we do not have enough manpower. But maybe in the future we'll be able to do that again. So.
Sure. And is that going to be at McKinley Bank, the planning group, at 6 p.m. this Thursday?
So this Thursday, the 9th, the chamber meets at 6, and then the Grange, I believe, meets at 7. So
they're going to meet separate then. They're not going to come. Are you going to be at the McKinley Bank? Is it 6? Okay.
Yep, I'm going to try and be there at 6, and then I'll book it over to the Grange meeting at 7.
Okay, great. Because I'm going to do my best to be at those the best I can. So I've already set that aside because I couldn't be there last time. And anyone else on the council that can join, that would be great. North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce is doing a restart. And those who know Howard Rixey from the Lions Club sort of joined North Pole Community Chamber of Commerce, and I'll give you guys a year. So we're trying to help them get on their feet and work things out with them. I think that would be great. So I didn't see that you were on here because I couldn't see your name. I'm sorry if I stole your thunder.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm sorry. I showed up the wrong name.
Okay. So with that, it must be whatever you're logged on to, whoever's computer it is. But questions for Miss Jennifer Hughes, please.
Thank you for working on this.
Yeah,
just thank you.
I should say. Yeah. And that's in a a very positive light. I'm very happy that we can do that. Thank you, Jennifer. And I've been passing out your phone number to 2 airmen at Eielson Air Force Base that want to come and be part of this.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you.
we can expect Christina Solos and her husband, Zach, who both want to not only be in the color run or the firecracker as it is, but they also want to help with everything. So
Wonderful.
that's good, because that way we get the families from Eielson involved. So I'm happy for that. Thank you for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
So Ellie, do we have anyone else?
No, sir, that's all.
That's it, huh? So that takes care. So I now declare that citizens' comments number 10 are closed. So we move on to no old business, and we've already consented on new business. So now we come to item 13, council comments. So I'll bring that right up to you, Miss Ellie, to tell us who's first on the council.
Mr. Jacobson?
All right, I drew the short stick. Great. I'm just really impressed with the progress that the city is making. There are so many positive things that are happening. I'm just really excited about being on the council and seeing so many good things from the HR policies and improvements there, to the health plan, to the website, to the community events, to all the department heads and the projects they're working on. City of North Pole, we can all be proud of the things that our employees and elected officials have been doing to serve our community. So thank you very much for everything that everybody's been doing. And welcome to Mr. Wallace for joining us as a new director.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate your leadership for coming back and helping us out during this time of a vacancy. So
thank you.
Who's next, Miss Ellie?
Mr. Keller?
I wanted to congratulate the fire department for the open house that they had. I was able to sneak in and get some hot dogs. Yes, that was plural. It was a good turnout, great weather for it. My kids had a blast there. It sounded like they had a really good turnout. So that's great, as well as the run that morning before. It sounds like they had a really good turnout for the police run, or the law enforcement run. With the weather coming up, I do have to echo Chief Heineken's warning for keeping the fires down, making sure we do everything we can. Everything's super dry right now, even though everything was very wet a couple of weeks ago. So let's do our part. Look out for our neighbors, making sure that they're doing okay with all the heat that we have. And with that, that's it.
Thank you, Anton. I appreciate it.
Mrs. Welch?
Yeah, and so following right along here with the thank you to the fire department, also thank you to our Lions Club, who were doing all the cruising with Santa. Howard Ritchie is a ramrod about so many things around here. I don't think he gets enough thank you for what he does in all different areas, him and the rest of the Lions. But the event with the vehicles were great. They had the young ladies over there all dressed up. They had everything, and the nice little thing that they had in the mall with all the people that came with their crafts and stuff like that. It's nice to have City of North Pole as a destination with an event like that, and so that was great. I did enjoy hot dogs at the fire department. Also, didn't eat the buns, but it was a good time with that. So thank you for that, and of course thank you to Brian S. For being here and promoting the things for the Grange and the firecracker run and stuff like that. We'll be out there, and I can tell you, young Miss Christina our airman from out at Allison. She also came and volunteered for my adjusting my science fair. So she's a get up, get going, and get things done young lady. And so take good care of her, put her to work. So she'll do us good. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welch.
Mr. Skips?
Yeah, I just want to say, with all the construction around town, just, slow down around the construction zones, to be aware of the workers. And I just want to welcome Mr. Wallace on board.
Thank you, David.
Mr. Cromer?
I want to say welcome to Mr. Wallace as well. I didn't get a chance to go to the fire department little open house thing, but I did get to go to the car show because my dad was in the car show. He had one of his cars there. I was gonna go to the fire place, but I was just overwhelmed with all the traffic, and I needed a grocery shop, and I was just like couldn't find a parking spot. It was just a mess, but I'm glad that everything went well from what I hear, and thank you. That's it.
Mayor Welch?
Oh, thank you. So I will say the 21st of May was a triple header day because if actually really more than that, because it started at KGMP. So there's 4 things I had to do. I had to go to KGMP to promote the things that were going to happen in the city. And then I got to the torch run. And that's the first time the law enforcement torch run has been run in North Pole out at Chino Lakes Resort. And they had bus to bring some of the Special Olympians there. And you'll know that I had no qualms about going off to do the 5K, regardless of my physical condition, because I had seen the night before where a female athlete just set the world record. She's not a pair. She's got a prosthetic lower left limb from cancer from 24 years ago. She's 46 years old. She's had this problem since she was 22, and she has done 102 marathons back-to-back days. 102 days that she's done a marathon, and several times a week she has to replace her prosthetic device. So that was encouragement enough for me, because the closest record to that was an Italian a few years ago. 3 years ago, he's done 59 back-to-back. The most I've ever done back-to-back are 6 days back-to-back marathon. And they did that 3 years in a row, and I've never been able to beat that. 6 is plenty enough. At any rate, I knew that I would get the thing done, so I had no qualms about doing it. And I did it with Colonel Barry Wilson, the former colonel of the Alaska State Troopers. So that was okay. I wasn't in a rush. But I learned a lot about what's going on with the Alaska Troopers. And I went straight from that event to the fire department. And wow, Chief Heineken's department, gosh, you guys, I was so proud of our city that day. And the citizens just loved every bit of it. I even saw Ellie's little boy, Meatball, there. I saw her 2 girls too, but Meatball, he was really something. But the kids came out and had a ball. And that's the kind of thing that's great about our city. And you don't see that everywhere in Alaska, much less in the country. So I was happy for that. And then what's next was that I did go to the car show, and they gave me the microphone. And I talked a lot less there than I am now, but I was very happy that O'Reilly Auto and the North Pole, Hotel North Pole, and the Lions Club and all were sponsors for that big car show. And so I go back with that car show, at least in my memory, to 2006, before they had finished the new overpass. They lit the drag race as they were putting in new lanes out on the highway coming over the Badger overpass heading towards Eielson. And there was a big drag race for that. That was fun. So I've seen it come along in 16 years. And that's just one of those things. There were 5,000, imagine that, 5,000 people that came as spectators to that thing all day long. So that speaks very well of us. So coming up here, if you like, if you can, any member of the council, if you want to come and see the people from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Vice Consul General, Vincent, or the Senior Economic Advisor, Walter, you may certainly come by here at about 3:30 on Wednesday and see them if you like. You're welcome to come in and say hi. So did somebody get skipped on this? I think Santa Claus, you missed Santa Claus there. Well, we'll let Santa Claus, because he's got such a prestigious position. Pro Tem, would you go ahead, sir?
Thank you. Well, just repeating everybody's kudos for the different departments and for that really nice job last weekend. Also, just a reminder, this is the last week, folks, that all of us can vote in the special election primary.
Thank you for that. And so I've been following that on many different news sources. Okay. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
So with that, I ask, has anyone been missed? We've all had a chance to say goodnight. And with that, it's 8:08.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. And there's a motion and a second. And we'll show it closed, Madam Ellie, there at 8:08. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Please be safe there. Bye.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
The recording has stopped.
That's a good thing
Good night,
to know.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Good job.
Right.